Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Yes, the Chad Daybell Trial has officially begun. Opening statements have been given, and the first witness has been called. We'll talk about it. Another hearing today in the Kohberger matter. Gee, I wonder what they could be discussing. The remains of Dylan Rounds have been found. The Watts house is for sale. That's right, Chris Watts' house, just up the street from here. And our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
Hi, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't. Like if you do. Leave me a comment below. And remember to hit that little bell for notifications. And it helps that whole algorithm thing to make sure you get notification of when we go live or put up new content. And remember, you can listen to us anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Now, I told you the other day on our live, had kind of a big deal. Got admitted to the United States Supreme Court for that little case that came out of Colorado and we had a little involvement in. But anyway, went to the United States Supreme Court. And you can't just apply to the United States Supreme Court and say, hey, I want to admit. You got to have some business before the court. And you have to have two sponsors of two people that are there already admitted as members. So we got admitted. And of course, they then say, well, would you like a plaque? And then they say, how would you like your plaque or your little certificate? Well, I want it put in a frame. So I have a little treat. Hopefully enjoy it. Now, I have not seen this yet myself. As you can see, it is still boxed up. And I thought to myself, oh, do I have a set of scissors here? But no, wait. I have my handy K-bar that I have had when I was a young Marine and going back to, I think, 1988. And I've brought it in for demonstrative exhibit purposes when discussing various people that have been charged with crimes. And so here it is. As you can see, it's a K-bar in a sheath, and it has a little button. And you can see you have to snap it. And if you were to snap it again, you'd have to push on it, and the oils of your hands could possibly be transferred there onto the little sheath. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. Let's open the box. I think this is our first unboxing that we've ever done on Crime Talk. People have sent me stuff in the past, but I've never opened it up on the air. Let's make sure you exercise proper knife safety and make sure it's properly in its sheath. I mean, you don't want your K-bar to get separated from your K-bar sheath. Could cause a whole lot of problems and confusions, and you just never know what's going to happen. Uh-oh, it looks like we may need to remove the K-bar from its sheath yet again to open it up. How exciting. Oh my goodness. Gee, I sure hope it looks good. Let's take a look. Wait. Nope. The Supreme Court people have obviously packed this in here safely. Like all of their opinions written with care. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. 1, 2, 3. Take a look at that. Hopefully you can see that. Not too much glare, I hope. Supreme Court of the United States of America. R. Scott Reich, Denver, Colorado. Was on motion first made to the court in this behalf by first Scott Gessler, duly admitted qualified attorney and counselor of the Supreme Court of the United States of the 22nd day of January in the year of our Lord, 2024, of the independence of the United States of America in 248. And then in testimony thereof, the clerk of the court, I hereby set my hand and affix the seal of the court of Washington, D.C., this 22nd day. And then down here, nice Supreme Court letters. Now, that is style, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? They ship it to you like that. That's pretty darn sweet. Anyway, there you go. Admitted. to the United States Supreme Court. So now your favorite YouTube CrimeTalk aficionado host is not only an actual real trial attorney that does cases, that's right, he is also admitted to the highest court in the land. Kind of impressive if I say so myself. Just kidding. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to it. Let's go ahead and open the record and begin the docket for April 10th, 2024. So, the Chad Daybell trial has officially started. Prosecution's opening, pretty similar to the one they did back there for Lori Vallow. But what did we hear today from Mr. Pryor? Well, it went on for about 19 minutes or so. Basically said, hey, don't be distracted, don't speculate, don't guess, don't make assumptions, and certainly don't rely upon hunches. And he gave a little background that, hey, Chad is a good guy. He went on his Mormon mission back in New Jersey, returned home, dated Tammy Daybell for 6 months. They got married and had 5 children and lived happily ever after. They ultimately moved to Idaho and ran a publishing company that basically Tammy ran as her job. Now, Mr. Pryor then also told the jury that Chad wrote books about religious experiences. He would write about premonitions, good and evil, and what it means to be good and evil. And he writes about dark and light. He writes about the death and the coming of the end things, and when his Savior in his mind is going to come back. Now, the Mr. Pryor then said, hey, he wrote some books, and guess what? They're fiction. Don't believe him. They're pretend. He doesn't necessarily believe this stuff. So while he was trying to sell books, guess what? He meets this beautiful, stunning woman by the name of Lori Vallow and comes up, and she starts giving him a lot of attention. She pursues him. She encouraged him. She went so far as to go behind the booth and help him in selling his books. Pryor then went on to say that after that seminar, there was a 1 to 2 month break between the time that Chad and Lori had any contact whatsoever. And then Pryor stated that Chad had a speeding ticket in 2005, but no other criminal background, trying to set the stage for, hey, he's a good guy, maybe a little vulnerable, got duped by this beautiful woman, Lori Vallow, this siren that's going to lead him astray. So Lori Vallow has a little bit different story. He let everybody know that Lori Vallow was someone who, right out of high school, married her first husband, and that marriage was short-lived, very short-lived. And then Pryor met Lori's second short-lived marriage. And he says that Alex Cox, her brother, who we've talked about many times in this show, would do anything to assist his sister without any questions whatsoever. And if Alex Cox perceived that there was a problem, Alex Cox took care of it. Anyway, so Mr. Pryor then says that the jury will hear testimony that Lori's third marriage to Joseph Ryan was somewhat tumultuous. And Mr. Pryor says that Alex Cox approached Joseph Ryan and shot him with a taser back in 2007, years before Lori even knew Chad, kind of the beginning of a pattern where Alex would take care of things. Now, whenever Lori Vallow had a problem, Alex Cox ran to the rescue, like I talked about. And Mr. Pryor states that Chad and Lori had an inappropriate relationship with their former spouses while they were still alive. I'm shocked. Anyway, Mr. Pryor then goes on and says, hey, jury, listen up. Alex Cox is the one that killed Charles Vallow. And Pryor says that the jury will see Chad Daybell had nothing to do with the execution of Charles Vallow or the shooting of Brandon Boudreaux. Now, as you may recall, those are the exact same charges that Lori Vallow is on trial for in Arizona after she was convicted and sentenced to 3 multiple life sentences for her involvement in the deaths of her 2 children, JJ Tylee, and the death of Tammy Daybell. As noted, Chad is a squeaky clean guy. And then, guess what? Lori Vallow leaves Texas. She's a very sexual person and came into Chad Daybell's life. How many times have I said early on in this case, the defense is going to be Chad Daybell, middle-aged white dude, kind of just going through life, has a total midlife crisis when this blonde bombshell comes into his life, rocks his world, And then after that, yes, the children were murdered. And there was a burial, and he knew nothing about it. He says that the backyard of Chad's property is it's 4.5 acres. Who knows what goes on in there? Now, Frank and I went there. Gosh, when was it, Frank? 3 years ago? It's really not that big. 4.5 acres, you think, oh, that's really big. It's really not that big. It's not that big, the actual property there. Anyway, Mr. Pryor then went on in his opening statement and talks about the burial locations of J.J. and Ty Lee, and the Pryor plans to bring forward 4 experts, including a doctor by the name of Greg Hemmican. This is a DNA expert. Apparently, he worked on the case of Amanda Knox, who was charged with murder and exonerated in Italy because of some DNA evidence. Apparently, this guy is quite the guy, according to Mr. Pryor. I will wait in great anticipation for his testimony. And the DNA expert is going to come in and talk about several hairs that were found on the plastic and on J.J. Vallow. He's also going to say there was no DNA evidence, no hair sample of Chad Daybell on Tylee Ryan or on J.J. Vallow. Pryor says that the jury will also hear from Dr. Raven, a forensic pathologist, who will talk about the circumstances surrounding Tammy Daybell. He says that she will say there is no indication that this was a homicide or any other cause of death can really be determined. And he also noted that the jury testimony, he will also note that the jury will hear testimony from 3 to 4 of Chad's children. And they want to talk about their mother's health struggles. They're going to talk about their mother's use of various medical treatments that she would use, including oils that she would put on her legs, medicines and different herbs that she would take, and that their mother was suffering from a number of issues and she would refuse to go see the doctor. And then Mr. Pryor said you're going to hear from another defense expert, a guy by the name of Patrick Eller, who is a data forensic examiner. And he is going to testify that Alex Cox visited the Daybell property multiple times, and Mr. Eller will present information and data to support it. Now, Dr. Bartnick will also testify, and he is a forensic pathologist. So they apparently have all these people lined up as to the cause of death. Now, prior to the and in his statements, he said, ladies and gentlemen, when you hear all of this evidence, you're going to find Mr. Daybell not guilty. Well, a couple of things come to mind. Neither the prosecution nor the defense's opening statement was particularly earth-shattering. I said, wow, you totally changed my mind. But I'm starting to wonder. Remember old Mr. Pryor? Oh, woe is little old me. 4 prosecutors and little old me. We don't have any resources. I'll be very curious to learn how all these experts are getting paid and who is paying for them. 99% sure Chad Daybell doesn't have any money. Maybe his family has some money. I've heard people say the Mormon Church was covering his legal expenses. I don't think so. But who will we know? I don't know. I'm sure the experts will be asked who is paying their bill and how much money they got. But it makes me think, was Mr. Pryor playing possum with the prosecutors and everybody else, saying, "Oh, little old me can't do a fancy case. Let me off this case, Judge. It's all about the money. I'm not getting paid." Ooh. Well, he's got some very expensive experts that are going to come in and testify, and apparently are going to help his case. So we'll be watching the trial. I think it's going to be interesting, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be interesting. And we'll bring you gavel-to-gavel coverage, and it'll begin 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. Join us. Crime Talk. Here we are. Next, Brian Kohberger. That's right. There's going to be another hearing scheduled. We're going to bring it to you live. And guess what? They're going to be talking about a possible change of venue. Should dominate the conversation, is my guess. As you may recall, the judge got a little testy with the defense about conducting their phone interview of the potential jurors. And the prosecution is saying it's completely tainted the city. Oh my gosh, what can we do? Oh, I guess move the case, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I still don't think that the defense did anything wrong. We'll see if the judge changes his tune just a little bit today. We'll have to wait and see. Next, the remains of Dylan Rounds have been found. That's right. When Dylan Rounds went missing about 2 years ago, he was 19 years old, and he was a farmer from Idaho who had planted his first crop there in Utah. Now, local investigators, along with the FBI, found skeletal remains presumed to be that of Mr. Rounds in a remote area of Lucin, Utah, about a 200-mile drive from Salt Lake City. Now, this is according to the Box Elder County Sheriff's Department, and the family has been notified that a plea deal has been reached as of last Monday after a month of negotiations. And that, of course, is what led to the recovery of the remains. Now, the individual, Mr. Brenner, is the man who's been charged with Mr. Rounds' death, was a squatter living on a trailer near Mr. Rounds' property. Now, the 60-year-old, who the deputies charged with Rounds' murder last year, led detective to the remains yesterday as part of a plea deal. And obviously that will give him some sort of deal where he's probably going to spend, at 60 years old, still the rest of his life in prison. So I'm happy for the family that the matter is resolved. Obviously, unfortunate situation. Next on the docket, that's right, the Chris Watts house. It's finally up for sale again. As you may recall, obviously wasn't a property that people wanted to have hit the market immediately, but now it has after, 5-6 years now? Anyway, the house where Chris Watts killed his wife and then led his small children to their oily graves is back on the market, and it's the most expensive one on the block, apparently. As you may recall, Watts didn't pay the bill. It ultimately went into bankruptcy. The lenders snapped it up, and then it was ultimately sold by the bank to somebody back in 2022, and they purchased it for about $600,000. Now they're trying to sell it for $775,000. And hey, do you want a house where the guy murdered his wife? I mean, I don't know. I guess if it was the right deal, $775,000 for that seems a little expensive for the area of town it's in. I mean, and literally 10 minutes north of here from the CrimeTalk studios. Maybe we'll have to swing by and see if it's really worth it. I just don't get it. So the house is about 10 years old. So, apparently it's in still pretty good shape, but there's not a whole lot of need to fixer-upper. It's not a fixer-upper, I guess. So you've got that going for you if you want to fork out that kind of money. I think it's a little overpriced for the area, but hey, things are worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. So, hey, if you want to buy it, buy it. I know a lot of people said, why don't they do some sort of park or memorial? Well, nobody has, and the owner's not going to do that out of the kindness of his heart, like just donate it or have it destroyed, right? And put up a park or memorial. No, they're going to make some money off of it. Let me know what you think. Finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Now, an elderly woman in North Carolina says that a man had been using her car to sexually pleasure himself for the last 3 years. Now, that man has been identified as Walter McCrae. Now, Mr. McCrae has been arrested for activity related to, get ready for this, mechanophilia, which is defined as sexual attraction to machines or vehicles. Who knew? Learn something new here every day, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, the victim, she's 82. Did I mention she was 82? I don't think I mentioned that. Carolyn Taylor, she said that I thought something was happening from under the hood of my car because whenever he would come up here, he would urinate all over the hood of the car and it would run all down, and I thought it was something with the car. I took my car to the shop there 3 times, she said. Anyway, Miss Taylor says she attempted to put cameras out to see what was happening, but the suspect would always move the cameras. However, once the police set up a camera, they were able to see what was really going on, and it had to be a little disturbing to watch the video. Is he about to? Yes, he was. Now, Mr. McCrae has been charged with felony stalking and 5 counts of property damage. I know this makes one thing for certain. It makes you want to have a garage for your car. Needless to say, this gentleman, Mr. McCrae, needs some serious help, and he needs to get over his mechanophilia. Weird and creepy. Anyway, the victim hopes that she'll be compensated for all she has had to go through and will continue to have to go through the court process. Can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. Can't make this stuff up. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk. And remember, the Constitution matters.